stick? A, 0.5 of a metre, B, 1 metre, C, 3 metres, or D, Sandra? How many miles before the tyres wear out? What happens to the jack when A, raising the heavy end, or B, attempting to raise the heavy end? How do you get oil in the gearbox? No. I don't know. And this is one which is a couple of the final ones, which shows what they thought about DeLorean. What is the combined IQ of the USA porter cabin? And the final one, did Ken Miles, who did the aircon unit, did Ken Miles design the plumbing for the Titanic? Come on back.
How do I follow that? I try and sort of follow on the sort of the sequence of events that occurred. We've gone past the as I was going to the States. I should mention, in fact, that in this sort of period of sort of February, March, Don Lander arrived on the scene. I've known him a long time. He had been MD of Chrysler UK. He was then MD of Chrysler Europe before they sold Chrysler to Peugeot for $1 or £1, I can't remember. But I had great respect for him, and certainly I think a lot of people did, and he brought quite a lot of reality back into the scene. He obviously been around in some difficult times, and I can't say exactly, officially joined the company then, which was shortly after the thing which we both know a bit about, and that is the only bit of serious trouble in the plant, which was Bobby Sands, who was on homicide in prison here, died, and the Twinbrook estate, which is adjacent to that, was where Bobby Sands was brought up, and there was serious rioting, and although there was never any animosity between people in the plant or from outside to people in the plant. In fact, there was great enthusiasm about any place that provided jobs, so very, very few places of employment had any trouble. But the engineering block mentioned was adjacent to the fence, and there were Nissan huts, and so the first thing that I could lob fire bombs at was our building. So I got a call early in the morning to come and see if I could retrieve any of the stuff that I got, and of course, you know, it was Mike Lowe's office, and a lot of the drawings were, all the drawings were there. We had to get sort of copies from everywhere else after that thing.
Yes, actually, quite a few came from our suppliers.
Yes, yeah. And this is my hard hat, which still bears the stains of going into a waterlogged building where the fire people had been to try and recover all my stuff, which was charred, and it was quite depressing. The only positive side of that is that we actually did, then it forced the pace of us moving into the offices that were low on the priority. Obviously manufacturing had the main priority, so we did eventually move into proper offices.
But accounts payable, you had a problem for a year.
Yes.
Oh, it was lost in the fire.
Yes.
And I think actually, you were there. I actually flew in the morning after Bobby Sands, because I was due to meet one of my buyers who was bringing a supply over. Now, it was difficult to get suppliers over to Northern Ireland at that time, and that's why we had a contact office. But I had this guy, Dave Williams, who now works for Jaguar, we did last time, And he was the sort of lad that if he'd been out on the beer all night, he'd blame the prawn cocktail. He was also a thalidomide child, but he was a lucky one. He just had one flipper. He was not actually a guy you wanted to drive with. He was really a point and squirt merchant. He could do nothing else about it. But he was bringing a supplier over that we've been trying for a long time, and he was coming over on a later flight. Now, Dave actually hadn't heard about the fire alarm, but he used to like to wind people up. And he was telling these suppliers all over the flight how dangerous it was in Northern Ireland, the problem. I think he was even hinting he'd lost his bloody arm because of it. And when they came into the plant, confronted by a burnt out building, the British Army everywhere, we never saw them again. But I mean, it did follow, didn't it? We had the army in the plant. Because it's a car plant, you've got wide roadways, and the army were driving around fully armed, hanging out the back of Land Rovers. In fact, I think in the training building they camped for a while, didn't they?
Yes, so they were around for quite a long time.
We actually, as a company, had to ask the army to go.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think there was one incident that I watched from the training building. From the Twinbrook estate, small kids, were throwing stones into the plant. And it drew the army to the perimeter fence. You watch the army come, then you look back at the kids, and the kids had disappeared. There were much bigger people, balaclavas. The army had been suckered into a dangerous situation. And I think it was after that we did ask.
Yeah, because to say it was actually drawing attention to something where there was no problem. The whole incident was just opportunistic. Yeah. Something there to throw stones at that wasn't in their estate. I mean, it was. I mean, probably heard. In fact, that was the Catholic area, and they used that gate to come in by.
I mean, that's where the press got it. So long, they said we had a Catholic and a Protestant entrance.
Yes, yeah.
Fine, you got an 80-acre site. Catholics one side, Protestants the other. What are you going to do? You have two entrances.
Yeah, it was purely logistics. There was no particular intention of making any sort of divide, and certainly I didn't come across any sort of incident inside as far as I was concerned. Working there.
But moving away to something different, we've got a Grand Prix weekend. And there is a reason why there's one particular team you should support. The body tooling, this is rather long-winded, the body tooling was produced by 3 different German companies. There was no English company that would do it in the time. Lappler was the main contractor. Lappler did all the tooling for the doors. 2 other companies, Nortelfair and one I can't remember, did all the other body tooling. And Lappler had them all together in the plant in Germany. There is another problem to that as well, but one of the other tool makers was represented by a company called Horner Associates.